Hey, sup guys? So this is a follow-up to the leaked custom V system video from last week, and if you guys missed out on that, don't worry, there's a link above if you want to catch up on all the news. So we still have more data mining information for Street Fighter V, what's new for the upcoming Season 3, also known as Super Street Fighter V, that we're all really excited for. This first one I tell you guys about was discovered once again by Xkira from data mining in the newest Menat patch release. So I'm sure you guys heard about the unused stance from Ryu, which was discovered in the game files that could potentially be Ryu's new V-trigger that turns him into Evil Ryu. Pretty crazy. So there has been a lot of discussion about it, which we're going to talk about. So now that we have a pretty good hint that there might be new V-triggers being added to the game for every single character, Xkira mentions that this animation stance that Ryu does, which is marked as unused inside the game, and it looks very similar to Ryu's current V-trigger activation stance. Now, we're assuming a lot of things here. First off, we're assuming Ryu's new V-trigger, if there's going to be a new V-trigger, is going to be another power-up type, assuming that. If it is going to be a power-up type, then it's also safe to assume that it would be Evil Ryu. What else could it possibly be, right? Now, I personally would find two issues with this if it is Evil Ryu. The first one being that it would mean that Evil Ryu obviously can no longer be a character added to the game. Now, I know some of you guys, don't want more Shotos being added to the game, but you can't deny that Evil Ryu is just an extremely popular character. It is always a safe bet for Capcom to add this character to the game. So, you would lose that possibility. I don't think they're going to add him anytime soon though, but it does, like I said, close the door. The second issue would be if they did make this his second V-trigger, then no one will ever use his original Denjin V-trigger ever again. You would forget that it existed, which is, not what we want in the game. Evil Ryu would be just too cool, I guess, even if it was a bad V-trigger somehow. And also, Denjin V-trigger, guys, is, one of the weakest V-triggers in the game right now. So I don't think people are going to miss it anytime soon, but Capcom's going to want to make people still want to use that. We want to add more choices to the game and not just simply replace them with other choices. So, we'll see what happens. Now, even if my two concerns are completely ignored, the chances of this being Ryu's second V-trigger is still pretty damn low, I would say. So first off, this unused pose that's found in the game files has been in the game files for quite some time. Xkira even said this himself. And I was trying to find a good comparison to this pose, maybe find something similar from another fighting game with Ryu in it. And actually, a lot of people have pointed out that this pose that he does is the exact same pose as his V-trigger in the very first trailers for Street Fighter V. This was actually Ryu's original V-trigger stance that he did. So that pretty much completely debunks this, I think. And I guess Capcom could use this, again down the road, but both stances are just so damn similar that I don't think that is. I don't know why it's still in the game, but it is. So there you have it, guys. Let me know what you think. So now that we're on the topic of a second V-trigger being added to every single character, this is going to raise some more concerns, because there are some characters that have V-triggers that are so good that I think it'd be very difficult for Capcom to find a way to convince you to give them up and switch to the new one. Because I don't think the freshness of a new V-trigger is enough to make you want to make the switch. It still has to be competitive. It still has to be, really good. So one character that comes to mind is definitely Necalli. I can't think of anything that would top his V-trigger, honestly, guys. While still, keeping up with the theme of the character, of course, too. I mean, Necalli is kind of a vampire character. He seeks power and he consumes it. So maybe if he had something that, consumed a great deal of life and gave him life back, maybe, I don't know. But we did talk about in our previous video that it would be good to add V-triggers that would, help overcome some characters' bad matchups as well. So, we'll have to see what they add for Necalli if they do. Another character that comes into mind is Menat, because she's the newest character and she just came out. She's already established as this character that revolves around her V-trigger. So that would mean if they added another V-trigger, it would have to be the same thing. She has to revolve around it. Otherwise, she'd be this really bad character. So that's what I mean about the second V-Trigger thing. That's what I am skeptical about, because this kind of puts Capcom's back into a wall. You know what I mean? It forces them to have to make these V-Triggers pretty similar to each other or top them. It's just really hard to do design-wise. I don't know what they could do with Menat. They could make the orbs spawn around the opponent instead, rather than her. Or they can make the orbs have their own hitboxes, like an Ouroboros, but then, that'd be like Rose's Ultra 2, which is what we thought Menat's V-Trigger would be in the first place. So, another thing too, guys, is that whenever they add a new character to the game, they would have to come with 2 V-Triggers if this V-Trigger thing is true. So that would be a lot more development, and it would be really hard because, like I said, they have to do 2 V-Triggers and figure out 2 unique things for the character. I guess maybe it wouldn't be that bad, because then they can at least, work around it, rather than, going through the original characters and figure out how to top theirs. So, now another character with a really good V-Trigger is Balrog, of course. Everyone hates Balrog's V-Trigger. However, Balrog players love his V-Trigger, so much so that, I highly doubt Capcom could figure out a replacement for it. And then there's Urien. I mean, what's the point of playing Urien if he doesn't have his Aegis Reflector? You see what I mean, guys? This is really tough for them to figure out ways to convince people to decide between both, right? One or the other. But, we want more options in the game. We do want a second V-Trigger added to the game, so we'll see what they do. Now, if we're figuring out a way to add a second V-skill to every single character in the game, would be really easy compared to adding a second V-Trigger. All Capcom has to do is avoid the philosophy of making sure they're anti-fireball, pretty much. They can do anything at that point. Lately too, we've seen it through the balance changes. Capcom is adding target combos to characters that lead into their V-skill. They're pretty much trying to find ways to allow characters to more, reliably gain V-gauge through their V-skills. But there are still some characters that are just, they can't really figure out a way to do it. Some characters like Chun-Li come to mind. Even Ken, if you think about it. Ken's doing his run all the time, but he's not getting V-gauge from it. He has to do the follow-up kick. So there are still things that they can add to these characters and use it more often. The V system is the core part of Street Fighter V. So we should be seeing all the V system being used constantly in every match with every single character. I would like Capcom to give us situations, mostly, where I have to decide, should I sacrifice some of my damage to land my V-skill at the end, or should I just do a damage ender? This is something I thought that was going to happen when I first saw Street Fighter V, and these will add choices and add more depth to the game. So I really want to see more V-skills that can be comboed into and just being used in general in all situations, even if the character doesn't have a fireball. Now for adding a second V-reversal, this one is really, really tough. I mean, besides just adding a movement one to all the characters that have offensive ones, I guess. They have been nerfed in Season 2, and people want more defensive mechanics in the game because, throw loops and the pressure is really strong right now. So I was thinking maybe they should add a V-reversal where you can only use it when you're knocked down, and it does kind of like this roll. But then I remember Cross Tekken, then we'd have some timeout issues if that was the case. And another problem is that no one would use the original V reversals ever again if you had something like that, where you could just roll out of the corner for free like that. So I guess that idea doesn't work. Thinking back though, one of the key things V reversals do is that it reduces stun. So it's something that you want to do when you're really close to stun. It saves you. And when you do hit the opponent, it does grade damage. So maybe I was thinking if they added a V reversal in the game that would do true damage, not grade damage to the opponent, so something that's more damaging, but it no longer reduces the stun, that might be a good trade-off that's worth considering adding to the game. But I think that's another tough one for Capcom to figure out. Alright, so the last piece of data mine information is really interesting. So a red flashing animation effect has been found in the game after the Menat patch. And this was posted by Killbox on Twitter, and basically it looks like an EX move that's red, okay? So the first reaction to this, of course, is that people were saying this might be a new FADC, V move coming to the game, which allows your character to basically cancel their attacks into, a dash or another special move like Street Fighter 4, right? So as crazy as this sounds, and that'd be really cool, I highly doubt I highly doubt they're going to add something to this game, considering, you know, all the other rumors that are floating around. I mean, we might as well call this game Street Fighter 6 at this point, because it's just too many changes, and I don't think Capcom has the time to even test or tweak this out. Now, let's say they did add something like this to the game. I personally wouldn't have a problem with it. It would obviously add a lot more depth, but of course, there's people are going to be afraid that it's going to turn into Street Fighter 4, where we have some serious risk and reward issues, where nothing is really risky anymore because you can make it safe with this FADC. But if you think about it, you know, I mean, the reward with V-Trigger is pretty much the same thing with the risk reward, because the activation of it, I mean, you can literally confirm off a crush counter into V-Trigger, and it makes things safe. It's the same thing, I would assume. Since this costs 1 bar to do this new V move, it would be pretty expensive, and you wouldn't see it too much like FADC was. So the second theory on what this red flashing effect is that it might be a new EX move. So a special attack that would cost both EX meter and V gauge. This is something I've been wanting since, you know, the beginning of the game's launch. I feel that the V system is definitely missing something. I've said this before. It's definitely missing one key mechanic, and this would also be a great excuse for Capcom to add missing fan favorite special attacks such as Ryu's Donkey Kick, and Bison's Psycho Crusher, or Zangief's Green Hand. The only issue I can think about adding a mechanic like this, where we get like these red EX special attacks, is that players will probably no longer use their V triggers and use these moves instead for combo filler or whatever they do. And that'd be a huge waste of work for, you know, designing these V triggers, and that's what's supposed to make the characters unique in this game. So that would definitely be an issue. But we do have matches where people are just spending their V bar on V reversals, so I don't think it'd be too bad. So the last popular theory on what this new flashing red effect is really interesting, and what probably is going to end up going to be is that it's going to be a new attack for the last Season 2 character, which is Zeku. So Killbox said when he decreased the ID of this attack by 1, he got Calling's Ice, so the freezing effect, which means that this is probably something unique to a character, and there's no character in the game that does this red flashing effect, so it probably has to be Zeku. There's also quite a bit of, you know, status effects in the game right now already. We got Poison, we got Freezing, and we even got Burning, with, you know, Red Fireball from Akuma or Dhalsim's V-Trigger. So I wonder what Zeku would bring to the table. What could Zeku do, guys, that would cause this red flashing effect, if it is what that red flashing effect is? So of course, let me know in the comments below, guys. Don't forget to like the video and be sure to subscribe to the channel. I'll keep you guys posted on more fighting game news in the future. So till then, guys, take care.